Welcome to the Explainer. So, let's talk about those powerful, almost invisible forces that are hitting your workplace from the outside. The ones completely reshaping how we work. Imagine your company is a ship out on the ocean. Well, today, we're going to map out the currents that are deciding exactly where that ship is headed.
All right, here's what we've got on tap. We'll start with why the old rulebooks are basically useless now. Then we'll figure out what's in our control versus what's not. We'll dive into the four big forces stirring things up, see how they lead to the trends you're seeing every day, and finish with a big question about the future of work.
All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, the uncharted waters. And really, that's what it feels like, right? Everything is changing at this incredible, revolutionary pace.
And hey, this isn't just a hunch. The research totally backs it up. Check out this quote. What it's basically saying is, the world outside has completely changed, but the way we think about managing people, it's stuck in the past. It's like we're trying to navigate with a GPS using a map from 1985. It just doesn't work.
So this really begs the question, right? If your organization is that ship and you're out there in these totally unpredictable waters, how in the world are you supposed to navigate? Where do you even start? Okay, so to even begin to navigate, you need a map. That's what this next section is all about, figuring out the difference between the stuff happening inside the company versus the huge forces coming from the outside. You'll hear this term, the HR environment. And really, it's just a way of saying everything. I mean, everything that has some kind of bearing on how a company handles its people. But to make it easier to grasp, we can break it down into two main buckets.
So here are those two buckets. On one side, you've got your internal forces. Think of things like your company culture, your internal policies. This is the stuff you can actually control, or at least influence, right? But then, on the other side, you have the external forces. We're talking about the economy, politics, technology. These are the giant waves. You can't stop them. You just have to learn how to ride them.
Okay, so let's zoom in on those external forces. We're going to break them down into what we can call the big four, the major currents that are really shaking things up.
Yep, these are the big four right here: economic, political, legal, technological, and demographic. And trust me, each one of these has a huge say in everything, from hiring to paychecks.
Let's start with the big one, economic factors. In a perfect, and I mean painfully perfect example of this is inflation, right? When prices for everything go up, it hits every single employee right in the wallet.
And check this out. It's a super clear cause and effect. When the cost of living shoots up, employers are pretty much forced to raise pay. This isn't about being nice, it's about survival. Because if you don't, you know exactly what happens. Your best people are going to walk right out the door for a company that will.
Okay, next up, political legal factors. Basically, these are the rules of the game set by the government. Think laws, regulations, all the official stuff you have to follow.
And these rules create some really hard lines for HR. They tell you who you can and can't discriminate against, they can set hiring quotas, and they lay down the law on things like pay and workplace safety. This isn't a buffet where you get to pick and choose. You just have to comply.
All right, on to technology. This one's a huge game changer, and it's so much more than just the latest phone or app. At its heart, technology is just a new way of doing things, a smarter, more organized way to get work done that often completely replaces the old way.
But here's the thing about tech. It's totally a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can make our jobs way more interesting and skilled. But on the other hand, if you don't keep up, you can get left behind fast. So the real trick for any company isn't just buying the new software. It's helping their people navigate that change.
And that brings us to our fourth big force, demographics. This is all about the people themselves, not what they do, but who they are. We're talking about age, gender, background. The whole makeup of the workforce is shifting.
And a massive part of this shift is the rise of what we call the knowledge worker. You know, those old lines between manual labor and office work, they're getting super blurry. And with that, expectations are changing. People want to be treated with respect and paid fairly no matter what their job title is.
Okay, so now let's connect the dots. How do these huge, kind of abstract ideas actually turn into the real-world trends we're all dealing with? Let's take a look. So let's start with technology. How does this big, broad force actually show up on a Tuesday morning at your job? Well, the connection is way more direct than you might think.
And, you can't argue with the numbers. Just look at hybrid work. We're talking 81% of businesses are projected to be doing it. That's not a niche. That's the new standard. And then there's Gen AI and HR. What seemed like science fiction a few years ago is on track to be a nearly $1.7 billion market. It's happening, and it's happening fast. See? These trends didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Technology made hybrid work possible. AI is completely changing how we find and hire people. And our ability to analyze data created the entire field of people analytics. It's a straight line from the technological force to the trend you're living with.
It's the same story with social and demographic shifts. The changes in who we are as a society are having a massive impact on what we expect from our jobs.
And if you ever wonder if companies are taking this seriously, just look at the money. The DEI market is projected to be worth over $15 billion. That tells you something important. This isn't just a social movement. It's become a core business strategy for attracting the best people.
And so what happens? Companies respond. You see this huge focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. You see the rise of things like employee resource groups and a huge new emphasis on well-being. These aren't just nice-to-haves anymore. For a lot of people, they're non-negotiable.
Okay, we've seen the big forces, we've seen the trends they're causing, so let's wrap this all up with one final, really important question.
So here's where it all leads. In this world of non-stop change, what's the future of management really about? Is it about trying to control every little thing, sticking to the old ways? Or is it about unleashing the potential that's already in your people? Honestly, the biggest challenge, but also the biggest opportunity, is figuring out how to build companies that can roll with these changes. And that journey starts with truly understanding the forces we just talked about.